Dude, let go of the door. Seriously, just let the door go. Go stand with your family. You should have just let the door go. You would have been all right. Whole theological analysis just there. Welcome to Durbania, I'm Durbin, and this is my theological analysis for Twister from 1996. I saw this movie right when it came out when I was 12 years old. I freaking loved this movie. I don't know why, because I lived in Ohio at the time where we actually got Twisters, and it freaked me out every single time the sky went green. Going green. Greenwich. But for whatever reason, I loved this movie, and we got Geostorm now just on the way, and that movie's either going to be really dumb or it's going to be really fun. So I thought, hey, I'll just go back and take a look at a movie that I know was really fun for me, and that is Twister. So as I was watching Twister for this theological analysis, a clear idea kind of formed for me, because I feel like this movie is a clear picture of this verse from Proverbs where it says, "Where there is no revelation, the people cast off restraint." By revelation, it's talking about vision. Where there is no clear vision, people are going to cast off restraint. So there's two storm-chasing teams in this movie. You have Bill and Joe, and they are leading the team that has vision and that has instinct. And then you have Jonas, who is the corporate sellout, leading a team of corporate sellouts, and they have no clear vision about why they're doing what they're doing. All they're thinking about is the money, and there's no real instinct there whatsoever. So as you look at Bill and Joe's team, Bill really does have this instinct about storms and tornadoes and how they work. Like, he'll look at a tornado and he'll be like, look at that updraft. It's about to shift its course. So he can shift the course of his team to intercept. And he does this because he's got a clear vision. Man, he created Dorothy. He created this device to be released in a tornado that would release sensors so they can understand how a tornado works, create early warning systems that will save lives. He had a clear vision and he had instinct, and those two things worked hand in hand for him, and they kept him alive and brought him and Joe victory at the end of this movie. Jonas is not so lucky because, like I said before, this guy doesn't have vision, he doesn't have instinct, to the point that he had to rip off Bill's design to even have something to release into a tornado to, figure out how tornado works. And since he was so consumed with greed, and since he was so consumed with how much money and prestige that he could get from this, he had no instinct whatsoever. The first half of this movie, when they would see skid marks on the road and know that Bill and Joe's team took a turn here, they would take a turn there. And because there was no vision, they would then cast off restraint and speed ahead of Bill in order to try to get there first, to release their device first so they could get the knowledge first. And when it gets to the end of this movie, the finale with that huge F5 tornado, Bill's trying to save Jonas's life. But Jonas is so utterly consumed with his greed and utterly consumed with his money, he really believes that Bill wants to get there first, so he's trying to get Jonas away and get Jonas to, lose this great opportunity. But no, Bill's instinct, he knew that F5 was going to shift course, and it did, and it destroyed Jonas. Now, in this movie, there is a character that is right smack dab in between Bill and Jonas, and that character is Joe. And what's interesting about Joe, she's right smack dab in the middle, because unlike Jonas, she's got a vision. Early warning systems, get Dorothy to fly. She's got a clear vision. And she's got some instinct about these storms and how they work, and kind of a fear and a respect for these storms. So she has those things going for her. But the part where she's different than Bill is this. Her vision is kind of blurry. Her vision gets kind of confuddled, if you will. And it gets confuddled because of an experience a long time ago that she's attributed a meaning to. So the opening of this movie is her as a little girl. An F5 tornado destroys her home and kills her dad. It is a horrible, tragic event. There's a reason we call events like that acts of God, because things like those tornadoes are absolutely beyond our control. What they're going to do, where they're going to touch down, all that stuff, it is 100% outside of our control, so we call these things acts of God. But we human beings have a very natural inclination. We want to find the meaning behind it. Why did this happen to me? And sometimes we want to find that meaning because really we want to attribute blame. That can't just happen for no reason. We got to find the meaning. We got to find someone to blame. And so that's what happens. And that is what happened with Joe.
Never seen what that thing can do, so don't talk to me about it. I've never seen it. You've never seen it miss this house and miss that house and come after you.
Was that what you think it did?
See, that was the meaning she attributed to this event in her life. The meaning was that tornado came straight for her because it missed those other houses, it hit her house, and it took her dad. So she took this thing and she made it personal. And at the same time, she was assigning blame. It was this tornado's fault. So now it's not just about studying this tornado, it's about slaying a dragon here. And so because of that, her vision is confuddled. So she's casting off some restraint, which puts her and Bill in certain scenes of this movie in some unnecessary danger. Now, Jesus and his disciples, they were walking and talking and hanging out, and they encountered something like this. I mean, obviously not a twister, but they encountered something like this. And so basically, they come across this blind guy, and the disciples turn to Jesus, and they're like, hey, who sinned that this guy was born blind? So they're looking at this event that is outside of their control, and they're looking for something to blame. What is the cause of this event? And so reading it from the Message Bible, because I like the wording it, and I think it's interesting, here's how Jesus responded to them. You're asking the wrong question. You're looking for someone to blame. There is no such cause-effect here. Look instead for what God can do now. So what he called them on was asking the wrong question. As their minds were consumed with the wrong question, looking for this cause-effect, as their minds were consumed with the wrong question, trying to assign blame, they were missing the revelation. They were missing the vision. Asking the right question would bring them to that. What can God do now? And what happened? Jesus healed the blind guy. So when we look at the movie Twister, we have Joe going through a very similar experience when the huge tornado hits and destroys Meg's house. It becomes this sobering thing for her. Plus, after this fight she had with Bill, she's already starting to go back and re-examine and rethink things, and this emotional thing happens with Meg, and thankfully Meg survives. But it's at this moment that she wakes up and releases that old meaning that she attributed to it. And rather than finding the cause effect as to why this thing skipped those two houses and went for her house and killed her dad, and rather than looking at it as the tornado as this beast to slay, she went and asked the right question. Why am I even doing this? And then she looked at Meg's wind chime things and went, I know how to make Dorothy fly. So when the question became, what can happen now? When the right question came, the answer came. So we humans, we have that very natural inclination. When things outside of our control that are bad happens, we want to find the meaning behind it. We want to attribute meaning to it. We want to attribute blame. But let's not forget the main thing, the right thing to ask. What can God do now? So in the end, Twister becomes a very amazing picture to me of finding revelation, of finding that right vision. And finding the right vision comes from asking the right question. Without revelation, the people cast off restraint. Joe was casting off restraint to a degree until she started asking the right question. When she asked the right question, the solution came. The disciples were looking for a cause and effect. They're like, this is so big. So who messed up that this person is now blind? And Jesus is like, quit trying to assign the blame and being consumed with the wrong questions. Ask the right one. What can God do now? So what did you think of Twister? Do you like this movie? Let me know in the comments. While you're there, hit that subscribe button to become a Durbanian. Next to the subscribe button is the bell. Be sure to click it so you're notified the moment I drop new videos. Check out my other theological analyses, movie reviews, trailer reactions, ranking videos, and so much more here on this channel. I'm Durbin. Thank you for checking out Durbania.